Okay, there we go. All right, like to call this meeting to order. The Village of Weston, Marathon County, Wisconsin meeting agenda or Human Resources Committee. Tuesday, May 31st, 2022, 5 p.m. We're online. We have a Zoom meeting. Do we have anybody online?
There is one person.
Says you.
It's a staff member.
That's you.
Jess is
Oh.
up there. I don't know why it's not
Jessica
showing.
Falkowski?
I think so, or maybe it's Jess. I don't know. It's a Jess. So I'm not sure which one.
Right, clerk, would you like to do roll call?
Sure. Hardinger,
Here.
Wyland,
Here.
Eckhart,
Here.
Schuster,
Here.
and Dirks Luby and Haig are both absent. Haig is absent and excused, and I did not hear back from Mickey Dirks Luby.
Absent, so absent, unexcused.
Yeah.
All right, we have, next agenda item is the approval of joint Human Resources Committee and Board of Trustees minutes from May 2nd, 2022. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for May 2nd.
Motion by Linda, Ms. Hapworth. Looking for a second. Do we need a second on that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Second.
second by trustee Wyland. Any discussions on that? Motion passed. Next agenda item is public comments. Is Jennifer, you're the only one that's online?
There is a Jess online also. I don't know why you can't see up there.
Usually if they have a question online, they can raise their hand.
I'm not seeing anything. There's nothing in the chat either.
No public comments?
Right.
We have a presentation. Is Corey gonna be here to give a presentation?
Oh,
Well, Keith, talk
so
on that.
Sherry can maybe kind of take us through how this item came up on the agenda. And yes, there was a plan initially to have Corey come and make a presentation on options for short-term, long-term disability, but after comparing Corey's options to what we already have, and also do an employee survey, it didn't seem it would be beneficial to have this presentation tonight. So I'm gonna let Sherry fill in the blanks on this a little bit if necessary.
Well, we did an employee survey just to kind of feel out what the employees were thinking. I figured that if I would just come back to the committee and say, hey, you know, we came up with this plan, and not get any feedback from the employees, you'd send me back to do that anyway. So I decided to do that, and the survey results were, it kind of came in at 50% yes, 50% no. And at that point, I only had, I think, 22 people that participated out of 36. So then today I had our public works director go out and talk to the guys out and back, because I knew that some of those guys probably hadn't taken the survey because they're not checking their emails. And so then a few more no's came out of that, and they were like, just leave the benefit the way it is. They like the fact that we're not paying any premiums on it right now, the ICI. The Mutual Omaha quote that came in provided for 60% of your earnings for a benefit versus 75% with ICI. ICI, the coverage is based off of just entirely your earnings, where this Mutual of Omaha, it would have been based on your benefit would have been based on earnings and age. That would never change with ICI. So So you got a couple pros, you got a couple cons, and so,
Was ICI the one that had such a long waiting period?
yes,
The
a
benefit
30-day
didn't
waiting
even really
period.
have the benefit at the end of the day?
So I think the employees looked at it as, I'll just use my 30 days, I'll just use my PTO and my medical leave bank to get that 75% benefit versus 60%. I mean, I can't speak for them, but I'm thinking that's maybe what they're thinking. Some people, some employees, people, they don't like change, so that could be it too. But what I mentioned to Keith was that we should hear from ICI, which that benefit is through the state program, which is the same place we get our WRS benefit. But they usually notify us like in the fall to let us know what's going to happen with the premiums. I said, maybe at that time, look at it again and say, if they're gonna offer zero premium again for next year, well, leave it alone. But if they're gonna say, hey, premiums are gonna kick in, maybe go back to Corey and say, hey, can we look at this stuff again? Go ahead, Keith.
Quick question, what, I'm missing, what are you saying, zero premium?
Well, they have a,
They're not, it's not a free benefit.
As of right now, it is.
It has been for a number of
I
years.
mean, they pay with not collecting any,
So I think what it is this is funded, this is all done through the state.
oh,
And
okay, it's through the state.
And actually, there's state employees and there's local employees. And obviously, we're in the group of the local employees. We have not had to pay premiums for 5 years. My understanding is that that fund is just doing so well, like they have too much money in it and maybe they have to, they're
Okay.
capped,
it's kind of,
and so then they have to keep these.
It's free to the village.
Yes, so we've been like on this holiday, I don't know, for 5 years, right? Probably 5 years. And right now, the state employees are actually having to pay premiums while we're not. But when we were, the state employees were not. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I know. That's really
Okay.
all I know.
That answers it.
And we just never know year to year what's going to happen. I'm just so surprised that we're still at this stage with it, but we'll take it.
Maybe it's based on how much they've paid out to the village
or other municipalities probably, right?
or other municipalities.
Same class of employees.
Mr. Donner?
So I just wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit too. Sherry reminded me today that this item initially came up because of a discussion about providing coverage for family medical leave, immediately in these cases as kind of an incentive for employee retention. And this came up because we did have an employee who was on family medical leave and had to satisfy, did she have to satisfy a 30-day
Yes.
elimination period?
Yep.
But then the benefit only extended for 6 weeks because of the particular situation, right?
Mhm.
So there was still a gap if they weren't gonna get any more benefit in this case. If you have a different situation, this is involving a new member of the family, a birth of a child, depending on whether it's a natural delivery or a cesarean, you can have a longer benefit period. The other part is covering that, and so the ICI is designed to kick in after 90 days for long-term disability. And somehow, when you're on these shorter incidences, it doesn't kick in. In these cases, the employees wouldn't have gotten this benefit if they hadn't bought a shorter elimination period, correct?
Correct.
So you can pay a premium then. So let's say even if you're on the premium holiday, would employees still qualify for a premium holiday if they elected to have a shorter elimination period?
Yes.
Okay, so under normal
Most people
circumstances, you,
did. Most people went and filled out the application so that they could get down to the 30 days and not stay at the 90-day.
so if we all
So is
understand
there-
how it worked.
So is there LTD and STD? Because now I'm confused. You said
It's
30-day
both.
for LTD and 30-day for STD, but I'm hearing there's also a 90-day for STD, and you have to purchase the premium for the 30-day
So the whole
elimination?
The whole ICI program is both short-term and long-term disability. And actually, the elimination periods go 30, 60, 90, and 180 days.
Okay.
Back when, I don't remember, 5, 6 years ago, we decided to jump on this program because I think that's when our sick leave went away, and so we were trying to throw other benefits in there to cover for that. So we jumped on this program back then and the employer at that time agreed to pay for both the employee and employer share for the 90-day elimination period. If you wanted the elimination period to be 60 or 30 days, you had to pay the difference of premium. And then we went on this premium holiday and it's 0 premium right now. Does that make sense?
I think so. Then how long does the STD benefit start for? So you have this came up with that family medical leave situation, you have the maternity leave. Typically, normal STD policies only cover 6 weeks for a vaginal delivery, 8 weeks for a C-section. So if you only have a 30-day
Right. So
elimination period, that only provides for a 2-week paid benefit.
So what's very unfortunate about it, and I've talked to them at not actually with the state, but I've talked to the people the third party, I think they're the Hartford or something, I
Sure.
can't remember. But anyway, I've talked to them and I'm like, this is the greatest benefit because, you have to wait these 30 days. So what happens is, and let's just say somebody's out 6 weeks on maternity leave. What happens is they have the 30-day elimination period, which is 4 weeks. That 30 days or that 4 weeks is part of your benefit that you get. So you only get paid out 2 weeks. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the way the program is. And some of the employees here say, well, I've got money in my medical leave bank to cover that 30 days. And some people, they might be off on a different kind of disability and they might be gone for 2 months. So then it's maybe a better benefit for that. It's just not a great benefit for somebody on maternity leave for 6 weeks.
So the medical leave bank, is that an accrued bank? Or is that just money they set aside into a fund?
Yeah, do you want to hit the medical
Well,
leave
in
bank?
general, it is, you earn so many PTO hours annually, or
Right.
actually it's bi-weekly. But in any year, like was it mid-December, depending on what your medical leave bank may be,
PTO bank or medical leave bank?
I'm sorry, your PTO bank, my mistake.
Okay, I just want to make sure, I'm like, are there two different ones? I just want to understand it.
Yeah.
People can
There are two
elect,
different ones.
people can elect to put PTO into their convert PTO to medical leave bank. And also, if they elect to do so, if they would say, put in, say 20 hours of PTO, they would actually be credited with 30 hours in the medical leave bank. So they get a little incentive to put medical leave bank in there. Now, medical leave bank can only be used for medical leave bank.
Sure.
It's not an accrued benefit, or that becomes a liability the village has to pay out. It's either used for medical leave bank for qualifying events,
Yep.
or it's lost when you retire, whatever. So.
Can they
and
put
there's-
as much as they want in there?
No, there's a maximum that can be in there, but I'm not
40
gonna,
hours each year can be put in.
but there's a,
But is there
there's
a
a
big
cap.
cap?
Oh,
Can they
the
continue
cap
to accrue?
is,
Isn't it 720?
yes, 720 days.
720
Okay,
hours.
so they.
720 hours, sorry.
720 hours.
Oh, that's a lot. Wow.
720 hours, sorry.
Okay,
Does that pay at 100% then, the medical leave?
of their pay?
It's their regular rate of pay, yes.
So at the end of each year, the employee can transfer up to 20 hours of the PTO bank into the medical leave bank.
40,
Or you can transfer to 40, I just.
Up to
used
40
20.
hours, okay. They can transfer to 40 hours and then they get another 20 added to that?
yes,
Got it. So 60 hours
yes.
every year, basically, they'll get 60 hours added to their medical leave.
New hires also get 20 hours put in after 6 months of employment,
The medical.
And then-
medical leave bank.
and then after that, it's just on your own to transfer. You don't accrue anything for your employment time?
Right.
Okay, then.
So I guess maybe what we need to understand or have employees understand is covering that, first of all, that first 30 days, that's the minimum elimination period, or whatever elimination period they may elect to choose on this ICI insurance. Or if they might be in a situation where they need to cover more, although family medical leave is limited to 12 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe part of the misunderstanding of this. I guess I'm even an example. I got a supplementary policy, but it turns out that's really only, actually, it has a 90-day elimination period itself. So it really hasn't given me any additional benefit that I thought I was getting all this time, so.
And doing the comparisons between what Corey provided us versus what we have, if our premiums would kick in, I did see that, the premiums are not too far off from one another. So
Okay,
I
so,
thought it was pretty reasonably priced that the employees had to pay for the short-term disability part of it.
should they need to in the future, is what you're saying? if
Yeah.
Free,
Yep,
freedom goes away.
right.
Good.
So I don't know if there's any other questions or thoughts on that whole topic.
Well, I guess while we're on it, you're saying the PTO, they can't roll that over year to year?
It's a continuous, okay, they're never supposed to exceed
Right.
their maximum accrual in the PTO bank.
What's the maximum approval?
Depends on years of service and,
So it's capped.
and every 2 weeks you're accruing 2 weeks worth of whatever that rate is in the handbook. And if it's exceeded at any time during the year, it's lost, is the way it works.
It just goes away. We don't offer some kind of buyback program or anything like that.
No. I think initially we started out with this on kind of for lack of a better way to describe it, a loosey-goosey, okay, yeah, we're just gonna look at it at the end of the year, make sure it's down to where it needs to be and make adjustments then, but we really are trying to keep tabs on it every pay period now, so that we're not getting people with, too high of a accrual beyond their maximum.
Yeah, that was just, I guess, my concern. If they're banking so many hours, I know we're short in a couple of departments and a couple of folks just decide to take a month or so off.
Right, although as you get into the higher levels of experience, the maximum accrual is fairly, it's quite a few weeks, it's like 5 weeks, I think,
I
isn't it?
think it's 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So there's no motion listed with
Oh, we
this.
we do not need a motion.
Yeah, it's just a discussion item.
Right.
So is this something that we're gonna revisit at a different date or?
It's actually on 6 right there, isn't
Yeah, because we
There's some-
originally were going to, depending on how the survey
Evaluate.
results came back, I thought maybe we would need to have some action. But based on the survey results, I really don't think we need any action at this time. But to look at it again in
Reevaluate?
the fall, when you hear from ICI on what they're gonna do with the premiums again.
And the survey you got right now from the employees is just to leave it alone. Okay.
Yes.
So there was background information, there was tables and quotes and spectrum on the different carriers, different insurers and so forth, so that was the reason for the link in the agenda.
And Corey was gonna come make a presentation on this, and I called her today, I said, I just don't think I need you to do that right now. So,
No, well, based off the survey, it doesn't sound like,
right,
yeah. Okay, so can we move on to the next?
yep,
Item 6, new business. Item 6, discussion and possible action on employee short-term and long-term disability benefits.
no more,
It sounds like we're not gonna,
no action needed.
no action needed on that.
Yeah.
So we're on number 7. Discussion and possible action on employee performance evaluation on the OneDrive link. Sherry, do you want to pull it up? Or I'm sorry, or Mr. Donner, or,
I think
I
Jen
have it.
can.
How is it not there?
actually, I think it's in here.
It's also, it's in the pickup, but also the other stuff is in that OneDrive.
If you click on number 7, it'll take you to the OneDrive. There you go.
Look at that.
We had to make it different.
Oh,
I just
Was
need to
that,
share
did that
right
work for
screen.
everybody or didn't it? Okay.
Yeah, there was a slurry of emails back and forth following our last meeting, and I'm gonna be out of town when this meeting was originally scheduled.
I
Next,
have it listed as number 8 up there, Jennifer. It's probably, I had the wrong
Top
number.
one.
so I appreciate everybody kind of getting this moving.
This is actually the material that was linked to the agenda as well. So I didn't get like a formal staff report. I was drafting an email and then I ended up not sending it. Because it was getting late and I thought it would be just as appropriate to put it into the packet.
No, I think this should all be listed with the packet as was discussed in the committee, so.
So this item was put on at the request of Committee Chair Hardinger, and we'd had some discussion on this in the past. So, again, I don't know who wants to lead on this. There were some questions I was responding to that you had proposed, Jasper, and then had taken a look at the review form template that we use versus the one that Linda provided us from Bone and Joint, and kind of looked at maybe making some changes to how we do our annual or whatever frequency of performance evaluations we choose.
Yeah, thank you for getting that over to us, Linda.
Yeah, no problem.
I think probably the best way, because you had some notes and I had some notes going back and forth on the emails and the conversation that we had. And you've got in the packet here,
Where are we gonna go?
basically a draft for the new performance
So
review.
start right here, I think. Yeah, or next page up. This is where. So this was your email to me. I think unless there's something in front of that.
Linda, I don't know if Keith and I have had a number of points on this, and I wasn't sure if you're able to see, because I CC'd you in the email, so you should have seen
Yeah.
everything kind of coming back and forth.
Good.
So, Mr. Donner had a meeting with some of the supervisors going over a little bit of this new performance evaluation form this afternoon, is that correct?
Yeah, we brought it up in the course of our regular meeting, that the timing was, appropriate based on, in fact, it was on the agenda tonight. I just wanted to kind of get some thoughts if they had seen it and looked at it, whatever. When I initially talked with Sherry about it, she kind of felt that the 5-point review grading, I guess, was maybe, that would be an improvement potentially over what we're using. And as I kind of polled the directors, they seem to be in agreement with that as well. So I guess then the other thing though is how do we how do we describe what constitutes a 5 in the different categories of the review and those different criteria that make up that category?
That's the most challenging part.
So that is something that has yet to be followed up with, but there is a draft at the request of the chair here in terms of what we wanted to have in here tonight. But then I had a couple other comments that I put in red on the, as you scroll down this email, I believe, Jennifer.
Page 24, I think. Well, there you go.
So anyway, if there's any reason to go on to those, otherwise we can go right to the form itself if we want.
Did you put all those in right in the form already?
I think I did.
Okay, then we could probably just go right to the form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this
This is
is
the
just
form.
our current form that we use, but ours is electronic, so we had to grab all of that and put it into electronic form, and I know yours is electronic as well. So like, if you look at that character one and all those bullets, we put all those bullets into a rating, and it was a total disaster. And I will tell you why, because if there's like 5 or 6 different words underneath the character, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That became 5 competencies that the manager had to evaluate. And then if you've got 5
As
sections,
one.
that's 25. It became really long, so we had limitations with our performance evaluation system online tool. So that would be something you want to look at. Will your performance evaluation system that you use electronically allow for this type of thing? And what does that setup look like? Because then you might want to tweak it. So we've tweaked it so it's more condensed.
So we are talking about changing the software platform that we use for HR, based on some of the, maybe the overkill we have with the current one, plus the cost of it, and there'd be some cost savings to go into a different one, but.
I don't recall there being a limit to any of the competencies. I mean, I think you could have as many as you wanted.
Yeah, it's just don't have too many.
I know, we actually Keith, I don't know if you remember, but we did tweak
I know we
ours.
already had
Because
reduced,
we had so many duplicate ones.
And that's
Yeah,
what
So
happened to ours.
we merged, we did that the year before last.
I think one of the value add you'll see is transitioning from a 3-point scale to a 5-point scale. When I first started at Bone and Joint, they had a 3-point scale, and we transitioned to a 5-point scale, and it provided so much more differentiation between your average employees and your star employees, and the managers really enjoyed that. So I think you'll find value in that if that's what you guys ultimately decide to do.
okay, well, anyway, initial feedback from the director team today was they felt that would be a good change, I guess, if you will. So I just, as we were saying here, you call these titles on the left side here competencies, or how do you refer to those?
Well, they're limited because of our system. So our system converts them into competencies.
Yes, and our current system has the same thing, Keith, and our new system will have the same thing. And yes, it is referred to as competencies.
And then we also have goals.
We have goals too, and they are weighted within the
Yeah, so you can weight them.
evaluation.
And what's nice is, especially for a management team, if you want to have goals tied to your strategic plan, you can weight them differently. If you have a big initiative going on, you could weight them so, their goals should align with what's happening at the village,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And then you can weight them appropriately, depending on how sophisticated your system is. Otherwise, just do something basic.
So I'm not familiar with the system that we're currently using. You said it's electronic.
Yes.
Everything is entered in electronically through the system.
Yes.
The current weighted scale that you guys have. So if we were to update something like this from a 3 to a 5, is there a template already in that system? Or do we integrate it into that system and load it up that way?
I don't think we're gonna worry about putting in the current system. We will
Right.
develop a form in the new system we're gonna put in
Yes.
place.
So we're responsible for the template and then uploading it and then that's used throughout the departments.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
All the competencies would get created in the new system and you decide how you want them weighted and the whole thing. And you create your rating scale within there and I mean, our current software, I mean, I think it, for the most part, worked pretty good. But it's just our job, they go together, the job applicant tracking and the performance evaluation systems, they're together in our NeoGov program. And it's, the job applicant tracking system is just too too big for our organization. There's way too many steps. And so the civics HR software that we're looking at is, I think it's just better geared for our smaller organization. But I went and watched their presentation on the performance evaluation, and it can do exactly what our current one can do. Maybe even a little bit better for us. So it seems like it'll be really nice for us.
so help me understand if this is the first grading point character and they're all grouped together here, Linda, is this, so do you give them evaluation on each one of those points? Or do you give them an evaluation in character as a whole based off of those points?
When we had this form, it was a whole. So they would, the examples that you see are outstanding and engaged and unsatisfactory were just some of this is what it looks like to get an outstanding. And you use those terms like always, because getting an outstanding should be hard.
Yeah.
That is your stretch. And someone who is always coming to work with a positive attitude, and our standards drive our business, so you probably want to change all that standards of behavior, because that's our, like, value statement. So whatever your value statement might be. But what ended up happening is we needed to fill in, like, all of the statements were very important to us. And so always comes to work with a positive attitude, lives with behavior standards became a competency. And then the next one, when involved in a negative conversation, will turn the conversation in a positive direction. That became a competency. And they became individual because they were pretty different.
Okay.
But then we had a lot of duplicates as we kept going through the forms. So really, it needs to tie in with what is gonna work for the village.
Right.
Right, so that's where I guess, we have to understand how these,
So right now, we kind of need to decide what our header is gonna be under that title, and then fill in with that description, behind that header, so that the supervisors can,
Yeah, and that's what's helpful for the supervisors, so when they're evaluating someone, they're like, well, no, you don't always come to work.
right here is basically what the supervisors are gonna have to write based off of what the different points of their character are.
Yeah, and what our supervisors ended up doing, they would circle. They would circle these where they landed, and so they ended up averaging, like they'd give them points for all the different sections and average that out, and then score them.
Oh.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep, because they were all 5 of those statements are separate in and of itself,
Okay,
and with, attendance. There's separate attendance.
so that's how they get one reading for multiple items.
Correct.
They add up, which, okay, that makes sense.
That's what it ended up working, but then when we put it into an electronic system, it didn't work that way. Then they became individual competencies.
But with this, are we able to do that? Well, we haven't even tried the new system yet. Do we even know if that's a possibility or if that's just gonna be,
well, again, here we are, this is our, if I'm looking at this form and if you want to get an outstanding rating, you got 1, 2, whatever number, I don't care what the number is, I'm presuming you have to meet every one of those. You would have to be judged to have met every one of those listed characteristics or whatever you want to say, right?
Right.
To get exceptional, some of those in that category and some in the next one.
Mhm.
But, okay. And then likewise, as you go from left to right in each one of those. So I don't know if it's gonna be, is it gonna be perfect? No, but I guess these descriptions probably give us a better sense of what it means
Right.
to be outstanding when it comes to that particular criteria or characteristic, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and it helps the manager with that subjectivity.
No, I think that's extremely helpful. It sounds like the challenge would be, well, number one, we have to update them with what's relative to that position for the village for that evaluation.
Right.
And then figure out within each,
Yeah,
which ones you want as separate competencies, because something like this really won't work in an online system, just speaking from experience, it failed miserably having 30 competencies.
Isn't it just a description of the rating?
Yeah.
Yes, but when you have, I don't know if we had character on there, if that's your words, I don't remember what our first one is. But attendance is so separate from having good behavior, right? You have good attendance or you don't.
Okay.
Separate from when you turn a negative conversation to a positive, very different. So it worked to our advantage when we separated all those out. Yeah, and so there's some that are, the behavior performance of a person, and then there's stuff related to actually the job quality. And I don't know about your system, but you could assign different competencies by different jobs. Like our nurses have hand hygiene as one additional competency. They might have education as a different competencies because they have to do all these journals. So you can come up with then different department competencies as well. So
I
our
think what that
supervisors
would
do that.
be, in order to get that done, I believe you would just have to do separate evaluations for each position or maybe for several positions. And then they would get, you'd have evaluation 1, evaluation 2, 3, and those are all maybe 3 separate positions. And they go out to those,
Sure.
get assigned to those employees. I think it could work.
Yeah, ours was, we could assign competencies per person. Like we select a competency and then we go through our employee list and grab all the people that are gonna be assigned to that competency. I'm assuming that's kind of way your online system would work.
That's the way I see it. I see it as a separate evaluation, each evaluation having different competencies.
your customer service evaluation points, you're gonna have that for obviously people that are interacting with people that come in here for the village. It's not the same as it's gonna be for somebody in our public works department who's out there, using heavy equipment machinery. You're not gonna have the same points on an evaluation. I don't know how time extensive that's gonna be to orientate that to the different department heads and who would be responsible for it.
I mean, right now, we just have one evaluation with all the same competencies, except for the people in leadership roles. They have a few more competency listed within the evaluation.
Yeah, you establish a core for everybody and then you do one or two extra. It
Right.
doesn't have to be a lot.
One thing
And you don't have to have any.
like,
I mean,
for
if they cover it,
example,
then it covers
we
it.
have the same evaluation as like the guys out and back.
Yeah.
And then one of our questions is safety. Well, are we safe? Are we, following OSHA? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. It really doesn't apply to us so much here in the office as much as it does to the guys out and back. But we still have the question, because you still can get hurt at work regardless, but.
So what you end up doing in a situation like that is you can give a neutral answer that doesn't affect the score.
Yeah,
You say it's meets expectations in our system.
Right.
now.
meets expectations,
Yes.
yeah.
Is it applicable? I guess it's applicable to a degree. They're compliant to to the level of expectation. So,
So when are we rolling over to the new system?
7 to 10 days,
Oh, wow.
But we'll have
Coming
it.
fast.
yes.
We'll have it in our possession to be
7 to
working.
10 days, yes.
So would the next,
But obviously, it's gonna take some time to implement.
right, and that's kind of what I'm curious about. So if it's 7 to 10 days out till we roll in a new system and we don't know the abilities of the structure of the new system or how we're gonna input this until we have that new system, unless somebody here has already used that system and is already familiar with it, right?
Right, but I did, like I said, I did watch a presentation last week on the system, and it can do everything that our current system can do. So
So,
I think we can be okay if we need to set up 3 different evaluations. You know, maybe one for the street department or for the public works department, one for the office, you know, one for the parks, whatever it is, we can do that. And we can put different competencies in each one.
so maybe one for administration that has interaction
Yep,
with dealing with the general public.
Yep.
Office, one for operations.
Yep.
That is out there doing their jobs and doesn't typically on a day-to-day have any interactions with the public. And then the third one being supervisor roles.
Yep.
So. But we don't really know if these bullet points, how that system is gonna group them until we play with it.
I think
Or
we
do
have
they
to-
need to get grouped at all?
Well, we have to decide which ones we want in these different competency categories, right? I'm not sure they can be radically different than what shown on the
Is that system gonna,
ones you have, but
So I would suggest you kind of go through each of them, because they are kind of grouped from, you know, what the meaning is, and pick out the ones that are most important to you as a village. And again, I don't know that system too much, Sherry, but I think all performance eval systems are pretty similar. They're gonna become individual competencies. And it's just the title that you see in there is the title that it is. It's that one competency, and then you move on to the next competency. And they probably aren't grouped together.
so when the rater is going through and filling them out, it's not really gonna look like this?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, it'll be, well, I kind of vaguely remember what yours looked like.
don't we have ours?
there's a sample in the OneDrive, I believe.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, I think there is.
Good.
So just for clarification, so the rater goes through, or the supervisor goes through, circles and fills this in and then hands it into the clerk, and the clerk puts it into the,
So you can set up workflows within,
It's 8.6.
what ours did was, the very first thing happened was, you went in and you put in or you reviewed the goals, was that it? Yes, you reviewed the goals, or you had, and you could have
There's
added
goals.
goals at the beginning. And then after that was done, the next workflow was it went to the employee to rate themselves.
Mhm.
And you would get email notifications. And then the employee would rate themselves, and then when they were done, the supervisor would get a notification to rate. And then after the supervisor was done, then it went off to the administrator to review. And then, once he was done, then it went back to the supervisor to sign off. Then once the supervisor signed off, then it went to the employee to sign off, and then it was done.
So it's all
Okay, so-
electronic.
Did the employee have any time to work?
I can see why this,
It's a pretty simple process. It sounds complicated,
It
but
sounds
basically,
complicated, but yeah,
instead of getting a paper form, you're getting an electronic notification, and you open it up and you do your evaluation, just like you would on paper.
yes.
They submit it, boom, and then the manager gets it, they do theirs, apparently Keith gets involved at some point. And at some point, there's a meeting with the employee, I hope, that you review the scores together, just like a normal would, it's just an evolution from paper to electronic.
Right.
And it actually works a lot smoother, there's less things that are missed,
Yeah.
paper can get lost. I'm just so impressed that you have an electronic system.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and my only,
There's some things we don't like about it, but for the most part, you know, it did a pretty good job. It did what we wanted it to do.
I see that working pretty good for the people that are in the office here, but how does that work for the guys that are usually in here in the morning, grab a truck and leave? They get set aside.
They set time aside to work with their department director or deputy director, and they're given time to work on this, because we have to give them time here.
Same thing in
So-
healthcare, we've got,
Yeah.
we take care of people, they can't leave and go and do that stuff, so we set aside time. It's an important part, that's
So-
why you would only want to do it once a year. I would not recommend doing a quarterly eval like this.
So in this case,
Yeah.
That was my,
Yeah, just
that
once a
was
year.
my soul.
whether this template could be modified to even kind of, we could describe in here, you know, they have to meet always, they have all of these certain things to get a 5, you know, we'll have to see what the system capabilities are of this next software.
I would compare what you currently have set up as competencies compared to what you want and update to make it a simple, because I know you're leaving, to make it a simple transition and update the rating scale to 5 points.
Sure, so maybe jump to the last page of this one. It's got a description of what it's supposed to mean to be exceeding expectations. So that's supposed to be our guideline. Do we refer to it all the time? I guess we can. We have it in our own mind, okay, exceeding expectations. Yeah, you're a star player in that particular competency. You're doing it, 100% of the time. Or during the year, you've gone up above and beyond in a certain area. So the 5-point thing and a better description of that could be part of a revamp of this as well, rather than, a specific format, but let's see what the new software platform is gonna enable us to do. We don't wanna make it harder than it needs to be, I guess, and I guess I'm fearful of us, spending too much time on a quarterly full-fledged review, a check-in, I think is kind of what we talked about, I think last time, and yes, we need to document those, I think is really the bottom line. We have a lot of interaction, with our employees, but does it always get documented? No, and we need to do a better job of that.
And I did, when I sat in on that presentation, I did ask them if it could be set up to have quarterly check-ins, because it couldn't be set up to do quarterly evaluations, but you could set it up to do quarterly check-ins, so that,
Something completely different.
yes,
What are the quarterly check-ins?
whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, what do the quarterly check-ins look like?
Whatever you want it to be, like,
You could ask 5
review their
questions.
goals, see where they're at. If you assign them, 5 goals, where are you at, where this is what you gotta get done by this time and that type of thing. It depends on what you want.
You have a particular format you follow or a form you fill out?
We don't do quarterly check-ins.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
We did monthly rounding. And so it was meant to be quick in the moment, less than 15 minutes. It could be a quick hallway conversation because we're with patients. So it's, hey, do you got time to do a quick round? And it could be even 5 minutes. And we based those questions off of our employee engagement surveys as to what were concerns that we were hearing, and also exit interviews, like what's the trend that we learned from last year that we want to carry over and improve this year. And so we had maybe 3 to 5 questions that we focused on. And if they had any goals or something specific, they would add that too. So it was just, what's working well, what's not working well, who can I thank, because we wanted to increase recognition. And so the employees had to think about someone that they could thank to recognize. That was important because we got feedback that they weren't recognized enough. It's like, okay. And that really helped improve our culture. It was a monthly, it was tracked. There was spotlights that we could put out there of maybe an idea that an employee had, so that the supervisor would follow up on that.
But you're not doing those anymore?
Well, the system was very expensive. We had utilized a company called the Suter Group and they had all sorts of bells and whistles. And we did that for about 8 years and we recently ended the contract. And now we just do it internally and track it in an Excel sheet. Now, they keep logs of it in a paper binder now. We went back to what we had because it was really costly to have that program. But it sounds like you have we could probably do it in our performance evaluation system, but we just don't. All right, and it was interesting, our employees really appreciated the monthly rounds, like, and when it was missed, they noticed. It's just supposed to be quick, less than 15 minutes. So, but that worked for us.
Right.
Okay then.
All right,
And you said the new software comes in 7 to 10 days?
well, it sounds like we have some prep work to do before it gets in here, at least identifying, like Mr. Donner said, the areas that we want to focus on. So when that system comes in, we can at least pull them up in there and start putting this thing together. So I think that's where we have to go then. So let's go back to the sheet, because that's the one you went over with the supervisors. And if those are the key areas that we want to identify our evaluations on, or if there's more, less,
Well, our
different wording,
discussion-
whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That way, when we get into this new system, at least we know which direction we're headed in to get this thing moving. And we're not just waiting on the next meeting to pull it up, I guess.
Right, so the discussion today was more focused on, is that the 5, do we like this, having a 5-point rating system, 3 points? I think in that regard, everybody was of the opinion 5 would be better, and allow for some more, I think as was said, more differentiation, more ability to, I guess, give those, make those distinctions between, outstanding performance and engaged or expected performance. So I guess going back to these different competencies and the particular characteristics that make up that, I think that's what we need to go back and talk to the directors about, and maybe that, again, there's gonna be some core ones that apply to everybody and then some that apply to different positions. So that's the step I think we need to take.
And I would focus on all the statements within the section. Like that first section was character. I would focus on the statements within and highlight which ones you'd want to see in your review.
Yeah.
If attendance is important, then you come up with a numerical system as to what constitutes 5 based off of how many unplanned absences you have.
Yeah.
What constitutes, like 5 is gonna be 0, right? Should be a stretch. You start with your 3 as your expectation always when you're laying things out, and then you have your stretch for your 4 and your 5s.
Sure, okay.
And those are obviously very objective then, because those are easy ones. If that's an important thing you want to measure.
So going back to our item number 7, discussion and possible action on employee performance evaluation. We're good going from a 3-point to a 5-point. Is that what we can note on that? They're
Yes.
recommending going from a 3-point to a 5-point rating system?
Yes.
Okay. Sarah, you're gonna have to help me out with this, because I'm not sure how we.
You need a motion on that?
Well, we've got several things, I guess it looks like, that are gonna fall under number 7 now. What I try to do is divvy these up so we can go after them individually and make it a little cleaner, but we don't have a specific agenda item just to identify the character points, competencies. So maybe that's just something that obviously didn't make the agenda, and it's something that you guys are just we'll have to have that on the next agenda. And between now and then,
I think as Keith mentioned, I think if we sit down as a director group and
Yeah,
look at
Yep.
each competency and see if that's
Yeah.
important to rate the employee on.
exactly. So it's something that's gonna have to kind of be developed between now and then. And then when that new
Yes.
system is placed, we have
Right,
an idea what that's gonna,
Yep.
what that description, what that value is gonna be within that system based off of what the department heads wanna rate them on.
right.
Is that correct?
That's,
Okay.
that's what I think that's a good way to move forward.
So that'll have to be at the end with, outside of this then. Because that's not I mean, we just had discussion of possible action on an employee performance evaluation, which there's a lot of sub-items to that. So-
I think what you're directing us to do is continue on a process to make revisions to this review form. I don't, it's, as I mentioned, this is not something that's incorporated in the handbook. It could be changed again at some point. I don't know that it really needs to be in the handbook. I think we talked about the review process in there right now. As long as we're implementing something, I mean, ultimately, you can probably take action on what is implemented or what we want to implement. Maybe that would be appropriate. I don't know where we cross the line, I guess, between what is staff responsibility versus what directive or directions were taken from the board or committees here either, so. I mean, I know there's a desire to have as objective of a review process as possible. And I guess that's the real goal here, I guess, is make the process that we use more objective, or as objective as we can make it.
I agree. Okay, so just to review, you're gonna get the supervisors together, the department heads. We agree that we'd like to go from a 3-point rating system to a 5-point rating system. When you have your meeting with the department heads, you'll review what points based off of those current form that we have, so that when the new system comes in, we can identify what those descriptions are gonna be for the raters. And then for our next meeting, we should be able to have almost a complete format to review, is that correct?
I wanna say, it's all gonna depend on their schedule and how often, we can meet to implement, to put in all the data in. But I wanna say when I had my first presentation with them, because we're doing the job applicant tracking system at the same time. So I think we have to start there, and then that will take us into the perform section, because you'll put all the positions in the job applicant tracking software first. So that gets all set up first, and then you move on to the perform or the evaluation part of it. I want to say 6 to 8 weeks.
And it'll probably take some time with your supervisors, directors to land on a form you all somewhat agree on. I know when we revamped ours, that was a lengthy process to get everyone to agree on what we're doing. So that will at least provide some ample time. Because you want to get it right. You don't want to evaluate something that's not going to be meaningful.
Right.
I think the issue is it has to go back to the directors to work this thing out once it happens, and we're beating our gums.
Yeah.
Until that happens.
So we can give a progress report at the next meeting. I guess I'm not sure we have a
Sure.
Okay,
deadline we could commit to at this point.
And with the new evaluation, it gives you a final score, right?
Yes.
Because that is really
Yes,
ultimately,
it
at the
does.
end of the day, that is really what we were hoping to gain from this, is you get a score and you have an objective merit increase process.
Yep.
That's-
One of the questions I had, because they hadn't showed it to me, was And right now, we're weighted on our goals. And I asked them, I said, can you do the same thing in the new system? And at first, they weren't sure, but they had to reach out and find out, and yes, the goals can be weighted as well. I don't know if you do that with your evaluations, but
Do for
that's,
managers.
okay. And so, yes, everything can be weighted and we can get a final score.
So, all right. Items 7, 8, 9, and 10. It sounds like we'll just request to have the administrator give us a status update on the next HR committee meeting, the progress of the new HR form or evaluation.
I guess for number 7, specifically, I think we should have some discussions on 8, 9. And, well, and 10, I guess will flow from the rest, but I think number 8 and 9 need merit some separate discussion tonight.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 8 then. Discussion and possible action on increasing of employee performance evaluations from annually to quarterly for all employees, with the exception of village administrator and department heads, to be done every 6 months. So it sounds like with this new form and the amount of time that it takes, annual is the way to go, but if we can do spot checks or check-ins every quarter
Monthly.
or monthly.
Monthly rounding, is that what you called it?
That's what I call it.
Okay.
That's what we did, not necessarily what you guys want to do. It all depends on how
Suggested.
easily accessible, you have with your staff.
So after our last discussion, last HR committee discussion here, my experience is the more interactions, feedback that you can have with your coworkers, your employees, your department heads, the more in touch you are with what's going on in that department, how they're doing. I don't feel like one annual performance evaluation is enough to really understand the professional and personal development of the employees, the culture within the company. And I don't know if it would necessarily need to be done monthly. I think quarterly and probably some middle ground between not a less time consuming evaluation than an entire annual review, but something that gives us some indication throughout that year how that employee's been doing, rather than just one final evaluation that they can take into consideration. So I just think it's gonna be something that's gonna help.
So what I understand you're requesting is something that you're feeling we should be doing, and I don't think I'm disagreeing. Some kind of a recorded, documented update on where we are, because I'm meeting weekly with the department directors. We have a lot of individual meetings. We have meetings with individual employees on, what's going on a particular day. So I think the quarterly check-in with individuals would be appropriate. I don't think trying to do something more frequently would really be, we're bordering on this, and we're gonna interfere with productivity, in my opinion. So I think we need to be mindful of that, if you will. So if, with no disrespect, I guess that's my feeling on that.
No, I completely agree, Mr. Donner. I'm not trying to make meetings just to make meetings and kill continuity or anything else. And I don't know how much interaction all the department heads would have with their employees. And I'm not trying to just add administrative time and take away from time that they could actually be working. But I think it would be helpful. And I agree with you, a quarterly, some kind of check-in to see where they're at, especially considering what goals they may have with the year, and our strategic plan where we're gonna go with the village is gonna help outline what those goals for those departments are gonna be once we get to that point. Maybe they have professional development courses or personal development courses that could be outlined as part of those goals, and we could check in with them and just let them know that we're interested in making sure that, you know, they're on track with that, or maybe they need help with it, or maybe they're falling behind with it, or maybe there's something going on that, you know, you're not aware of otherwise. But I think, I feel like that's more of a department head than your responsibility. And that's just,
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, it would be within each department with their employees and or me as administrator with the directors themselves, so.
I'm gonna make a motion that we stick with, annual evaluations with quarterly check-ins.
second,
I'd like to second.
second by Wyland. Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Item number 9, discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any further? I'm sorry. We need a vote for that one? We do, don't we? Because it was a motion.
After a motion.
Okay, so the motion was to annual evaluations with quarterly check-ins. Is that correct?
Correct.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Any discussion? I'm sorry, discussion's supposed to be before the vote, isn't it?
I would just add, normally with supervisors, if you've got a problem with some employee in some area, you know, it's gonna be discussed probably when it happens. Quarterly makes it formal, but monthly, if the issue has to be, it'll happen. I don't think you need anything more formal than that.
Great. Mr. Donner, you're all right with that?
I'm sorry?
Are you comfortable with that?
Well, I think, yeah, when you have a particular issue that comes up, you want to try to follow up on it as quickly as you can, you know, while things are fresh in people's mind. But at the same time, I guess sometimes it helps if there's a little bit of a cooling off period to kind of understand or try to understand what people's emotions might have been at a particular time too. So every situation is a little different, but there are things you want to let play for any length of time, I guess, and we don't want to be just dependent on a stated interval necessarily.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't state that question clearly. Is that how, if something needs to be addressed, is that how the supervisors do it now? They do it within like a 24-hour period or?
Yeah.
Well, you don't know what you're dealing with a particular employee, family problems,
Yeah.
sickness, what have you. And you do need to give them some space, some
Yeah.
time to do what they gotta do.
Whatever they're doing right now is working because the culture within
Right.
the village is good. All right, agenda number 9, discussion of possible action on integration of the employee merit increase matrix for the annual budget planning. Is this new, that we're getting in 7-10 days, this new system, is that gonna have a merit? Do we have any idea if that's gonna have some kind of cumulative merit spreadsheet it's gonna kick out based off the evaluations at the end of the year? Is that something that we integrate?
That, I'm sure, is only going to, my guess is it's only going to print out a weighted score. Is that
I'm
what your
sorry?
system does?
Our system does have, we have a comp system that's separate, so it pulls in, we set up a separate comp system, so it pulls in the merit increase score, and then we set up what I sent out, that matrix. We update that every year based off of what the max payout can be.
Oh.
So, your top score, 4.76 to 5, is your max merit increase that someone could get, and then you kind of back in from there. So every year we update that, and it just kind of ties the two together. So, on paper, to electronic. We used to just have that, all the managers would have that, and then they would submit what they needed to for the budget, for the merit increase.
So are there, aside from a merit increase, our handbook discusses some of the different reasons for making adjustments, market-based or market situation being one of them, which is a hot topic at the moment. Where's the labor market going? What is it creating? So, is the market, any market adjustments, and that's separate from
Separate.
determining what a merit increase would
Correct.
be?
Because your merit increase is completely tied to your performance. So when you go to give your annual evaluations, you're giving those extra increases based off of how they score.
Okay.
And that's really at the end of the day, what we were kind of trying to get to, rather than, oh, I think this one's better than this one. It's tying it to a specific outcome, where the market is specifically based on market. It has nothing to do with someone's performance.
And that's how I understood it.
Yeah.
That's what we approved at the last meeting, wasn't it? There's a market
Actually,
evaluation.
what we would have considered to be market increases would have been our earlier 2%
Right.
cost of living or whatever we called it.
And that's where you have to figure out, you have a budget for pay increases, period. Whether they're market or merits, you have a budget. And, there are some organizations that still do cost of living increases, some organizations don't, because it does, and you have a high performing workforce, which is really great. But there's some inequities that can happen with that, where Fred, he's outperforming me every day, but I still get the same pay increase that Fred got, right, Fred? So it can be a disengaging process when you do that across the board, but that's a philosophy I think the board has to really address is, do you want to do a flat across the board increase, or do you want to combine it all into a merit?
Right, so again, we just got split up into two pieces this year, I guess we call it the CPI. We were looking at what's the CPI increase this year. And that we had budgeted in the labor pool, a 2% increase. But then when we kind of looked at this further and because of where the labor market is going or the job market, there was a sentiment from an HR meeting prior to our new trustees taking their seats that what we were being able to look at was inadequate. It wasn't gonna be sufficient for some retention issues and for some newer employees that had just joined us. So that was the thing we tried to take care of in the last meeting. And I think we ended up combining some market rate changes with what may have been merit increases. So they probably got intermingled. So it wasn't a pure merit increase recommendation, although that's how we represented it, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So did you guys get any feedback after we approved that last time from the employees and the staff? Because you just said something, was it a previous trustee or was it part of the staff that didn't feel like their market increase was actually gonna reflect the current market with their pay?
It was a discussion from the board that we're, because of where certain people know that the labor market is going and where it is, that we needed to do more for the employees this year.
So what's the feedback from the employees after we did that?
We had been getting some, I didn't get any personally. I don't know if that's uncommon. But, we didn't get any,
I can
don't know.
tell you
Sherry, did you get
that, I
any?
can tell you that my staff, they were very, very, very thankful,
I think there was,
very thankful.
I guess from that perspective, I did get at least one person from the staff, but, I think
Okay, so
they're reluctant to talk about it to some level unless they're feeling that they really we need to do more, or they're being underpaid, that kind of thing. So it'd probably be a better question that's answered by some of the department directors. They may have gotten more direct feedback than I did.
I do
Okay,
believe,
so-
I do believe most of those recommendations for any merit increase came from the directors.
Mhm.
So I think if there was any feedback, the employee probably said something to their director.
Well, if somebody brought up previously that they were worried that our pay scale would have issues with retention, or that there was dissatisfaction amongst the village employees, if that was expressed previously, then I'd like to know what was addressed. So whether or not those people that had those concerns, if they still do or they don't, or if this came from the board or it was a policy thing, or if it came from the department heads, I don't know, I wasn't here. But I want to know whether or not it's been addressed, whether or not they're happy with it. If they're not happy with it, why they're not happy with it, any recommendations to us.
Okay.
But the merit system, to go back to our agenda item, the merit system, as Linda said, you've got a market evaluation and a merit. This is like a bonus for people that fall above that highest level of the category within those departments. So the idea behind this is that for budgeting purposes, we can say, okay, anybody above a certain line, just like we approved in that last meeting, we had a number of people that received kind of a higher bonus. It's going to be easier for the evaluators, the raters at the end of the year to go, okay. And it's also, easier for them at the end of the year to go, okay, anybody that's going to fall above this line is going to qualify for the merit. We have $10,000 or $15,000 worth of merit stand out at the end of the year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Rather than a market evaluation because I feel like we kind of combined both of them in the last meeting, and that's how the pay increases went out. But this is purely, like Linda said, this is like a bonus. So if Mr. Schuster is constantly outperforming, Ms. Wyland over here.
Oh, you're getting both of us now.
At the end of the year that, if we do a market evaluation, everybody gets, a chunk of that because of inflation, because of cost of living increases, whatever it is. But this solely based off of performance. And I guess that's what I thought we were looking at, that market evaluation, or the merit evaluation. So at the end of the year, those people who are constantly top performers get rewarded for that.
I think that would be what merit is. What do I say? For lack of a better term, traditionally perceived or implemented as.
Yeah, I feel like it's.
In our case, I guess a merit increase would be added to someone's base pay and it would carry forward from there.
Yep.
A bonus would be a one-time thing.
Yeah, I would do bonus on this.
So Mr., I should say President Maloney's philosophy and his statements that are at the meeting I'm referring to were that if somebody's worthy of a bonus, then why are they not worthy of having that added to their base and carried forward from there on? So everybody's got different perspectives on stuff like this, so it's.
Because it may only happen once.
Well,
Well, I mean, and that,
we're trying to define what we're measuring. We're not out selling whatever it is. And our performance is not based on selling more of whatever it is. We're trying to sell or perform service for the community.
Yep.
well, and just playing devil's advocate, I mean, somebody comes in, they know that's how the system works, and they perform above average or excellent, or they excel for that entire year, knowing that if they're gonna get that, it's not gonna be a bonus, it's actually now gonna be added to their base salary. And then the following years, they can just just playing devil's advocate, just wade through at that point. Now, if they got that bonus,
Then it's gonna, I would think, reflect in their
Performance review.
performance next time.
Yeah.
If all they're doing is trying to skate by. So there's two ways to look at it. According, on this scale, it says less than 2, no increase. Does that mean no merit increase, or that just means There may be a market adjustment, but
Well-
no, or maybe not,
We separate ours completely.
yeah.
Merit
Okay.
increases are truly performance-based merit increases, and that's what we budget every year. We budget and they get it if they're a good performer. If they don't, why give them a pay increase?
So there's, okay,
Like, why would you even give a cost of living to someone who is not performing well at all? It's kind of like, oh, here you go, here's some money for you, but continue to do a poor job for us.
Yeah.
So ours is
I've
completely,
always agreed with that.
we don't do any, I've never, in all the organizations I've worked in, except for one, never did, we got rid of the cost of living
Cost.
because it was just an stabilizer. It made more people
Gives the
upset that you were
wrong
getting the
message.
same pay increase. Yeah, it gives the wrong message. So ours is truly just merit. Now, if there's a need to do a market review because you're having really difficult times recruiting or you're having high turnover, then that would be separate. And so if you have any extra in the budget that you need to do a market, then it's true market based off of what the market is dictating versus their performance. So that's where you kind of need to make a decision of, is that the route you want to go?
Do you have any feedback from the way we did it this last time?
pardon?
Was there, well, I guess there wasn't.
In terms of,
Tied
in
right into the other one, huh?
terms of the review process, no, I guess, again, I can make a more conscious effort to get some better assessment of what reactions were.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, if you did a 2 and then on average, the merit increases were what, 1.5? 1.5%?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
'cause
don't remember what the average was.
Yeah,
Because then you're looking at a 3 to a 3.5% pool. And then you give that pool for them to manage based off of the scores that they get.
So that was the discussion today, is that if we went to this as a merit, it's more likely to be left to each department director than to manage that.
Well, they have a guide.
Mhm.
And it's, you got a score of a 2.5 and you get a XYZ merit increase. I mean, it's very objective then.
so is this something we
Oh.
want to come back to then,
Absolutely.
next meeting?
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna resolve it tonight,
Yeah.
it's more of a philosophical discussion.
Right.
At this level, I
It
think,
is,
right now, but
So we can, after you get a chance to talk more about it with the department heads, would you like to brief us on it in the next meeting then?
sure.
Okay, moving on to number 10. Discussion and possible action on updates to the employee personnel policies and procedures handbook. I had requested this because I didn't know what steps you guys would have to take based off of the email traffic that we had back and forth once there was a change to performance evaluation, as we are not changing anything in the performance evaluation tonight. And this is something we're gonna circle back to. I think we could just move past this question.
Right,
Is everybody okay with that?
yeah, that's fine.
Great. Number 11, acknowledgement of resignation from clerk employee resources manager.
And we should
Let's
know
all
that
say
one.
no.
Yeah, I
And
vote
then,
no.
and then.
I was gonna say no, not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I'll make a motion
Sentiment
to
is shared.
acknowledge the resignation.
Fred makes a motion to acknowledge resignation. I need a second.
I will second.
Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor? No, wait, we don't vote on that. We just acknowledge it.
All in favor, say aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Acknowledgement passes.
My final statement is we're acknowledging it, we're not approving it.
Right.
Right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Excited for you.
Excited too.
Okay, any remarks from staff?
Well, they said
I
enough.
actually have a remark to make about health insurance. I attended a meeting last week. We are in a co-op. I don't know if you remember, we're in a health insurance co-op with multiple employers. And they gave us an update on our loss ratio, and we are at 86.93. We need to be below 88 for a no increase with Security Health Plan. And utilization is looking really, really good right now. And they say, you know, as you get closer to the end of the year, the utilization goes down. So they really feel confident that we're gonna keep that number below that 88 and have a 0% increase again.
When do they rate you? Like what month?
You know, that came up and I'm not sure. We think that it's October.
October. Awesome.
Yes, they're making 14% profit, not a bad deal. Keep those insurance companies wealthy.
Yep,
Attention depends on it.
but we'll take a 0% increase, I'll tell you that much.
That would be great.
Any other remarks from staff?
Nope, not for me. Jennifer?
Nope.
Remarks from committee members?
None for me.
None for me.
I just had one question. Any update on the hiring? For,
Sure.
it's a deputy
Finance Director.
finance,
Been made.
yeah, we had,
Offer's been made and accepted.
great. That was Jenna, right?
13.
13th of June will be the start date, and Jenna's last day is tomorrow.
Okay.
We have 4 applicants for the clerk position that was closing today. We had a lot of hits, a lot of interest on it, but only 4 applicants, so I'm sending up.
800 hits,
What's that?
almost 800 hits,
Yeah.
And only 4?
only 4 applicants.
So sad.
Wow, that's,
So we'll be setting up interviews, maybe as early as late next week.
Are we short on any other key positions?
Every position's key the way we are staffed around here, but still contemplating how to
oh, then I will.
potentially backfill the position that left earlier this year. Deputy clerk was also working on social media things and so forth. And also one of the other shortcomings seems to be our administrative help need, and like for the administrator or for the public works department. And my thought is, and well, another thing is HR. So thinking about maybe having an HR person or a combination HR and administrative assistant for the administrator as the position that we advertised for. So I know we had talked about an HR position dedicated. I don't know that if we're only attending to our needs here, I think it's possible we can handle that. But I guess we felt that it was gonna be pretty difficult to have get a clerk that's gonna attend to clerk duties and the HR duties. As Sherry has taken on all this over time and
It was too much.
obviously, she's obviously done a great job, but it is a very, it's a very
Demanding.
demanding job, I guess, yes.
Thank you, Keith. Any future items?
When do you want to set the next meeting date?
Usually what, the first week of the month, isn't it?
We've always, in the past, we've tried to have them on the first Monday of the month.
So that would make it the 4th of July.
No problem.
You don't want to come? Come on.
Would anybody have a problem with the 5th of July?
What day of the week is that?
Tuesday, that would be a Tuesday.
That would be no good for,
That would be pushing it.
That would be
Yeah.
pushing it for me.
Okay.
my work schedule gets pushed up a day.
How about the 12th of July? That's a Tuesday. It's the following week.
That would be,
Well, I prefer not to do Tuesdays in summertime just because, but,
what happened to Monday?
what about Wednesday after the 4th, Wednesday the 6th?
Wednesday the 6th work for anybody else?
That's not a problem.
Linda?
I'm out on that day. My schedule says I'm on PTO. I have no idea what I'm doing. I think I'm off all week.
Okay, well,
Fishing.
I might be
Usually take the whole
fishing.
week off too.
I think I'm taking. that.
okay, let's move to the next week then. It either be Monday, the 11th, or you said Tuesdays don't work for you, Keith?
I prefer not to in the summer, but,
So Monday,
I would prefer
Monday
we,
won't work,
Monday won't work.
plan commission
We have
and
plans.
public
Oh,
works.
Monday, the 11th?
Yeah, there's plan commission and public works that night.
What about the last week in July would make it basically a month from now? That's before the 4th of July? That would be the 27th of June, would be the
that's
last,
a Monday,
that's a Monday. The 27th of June would be the week prior to the 4th of July. That would be roughly a month from now.
fine with me.
27th of June, Linda,
Yep, that would work for me.
Jamie? Okay, 27th of June, 5 PM.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, wait, just.
Okay, motion to adjourn? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
We vote on that, don't we?
you voted on it.
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion adjourned carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.